big news yesterday. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II passing at 96 years old. I have to imagine not surprised, but still shocking.
Yes, well, I mean, it all happened rather suddenly in the end, of course. Nobody knew that she was really sick until the last 48 hours, and then it all became rather sudden, and she deteriorated very quickly. So, yeah, it was rather sudden, but of course, being 96, everyone expected it could happen at any time, and so that's what happened, yeah.
I mean, just a couple of days ago, she welcomed, I think it was her 15th prime minister, which is pretty impressive considering 70-year reign, all that has happened in the world. It's an immense amount of not only world-changing historical events in the past 70 years, but the amount of world leaders that she has interacted with, let alone prime ministers, U.S. presidents, the popes. I mean, just it goes on and on. And I understand she enjoyed a very high favorable rating from the people.
She did, yes, and she really gave her life, obviously, to the country, to the people, and people recognize that. And so they were the love for her was immense, because her love for them was immense, and also which she derived from her faith, from her Christian faith, and that was really what drove her and inspired her and gave her all of her motivation, was the sense of fulfilling the duty to the nation, primarily because she felt she was fulfilling her duty to Christ, to the Lord.
Mm. You wrote a very touching piece, a tribute to My Queen, over at the National Catholic Register, which I encourage everyone to check out. You can find ncrregister.com. It was right on the homepage, above the fold, as they say, so you should give that a read today. Can you try to explain to us what is the relationship between the English citizen and their monarchy?
Yes, well, it's obviously an ancient institution, and it's obviously very dear to many of the British people, partly because of that. It's very much part of our culture, and it goes back a long way. But there's also a sacred element to the monarchy that goes back to the divine right of kings. But it's also very much, a lot of people don't realize this, but it's a very Catholic institution. It was obviously begun through the Catholic Church back in, many years ago, and so many centuries ago, and so it has a certain spiritual element to it, and that is something that people are, even if they're not consciously aware of it, they're perhaps subconsciously aware of it, and it gives that the monarchy gives a certain stability, especially in the times of change that we've had, and something that people can see as a rock to hold on to, and a head of state that is someone who doesn't come and go with elections, but is someone that's there and gives a stable rock for their lives, and gives them a certain meaning too, and a certain spiritual meaning as well. So I think that's part of it. I think that's a big part of it. That's why it sort of runs deep within the people of Britain. Of course, not everyone. There are quite a few Republicans there now who like to see an end to the monarchy. But I think that's the general feeling among the British people, is that she does provide that great sort of spiritual element to the life of the country. Even though she's not Catholic, she was a devout Christian in her own way.
Did it ever? Again, a minute ago we said she enjoyed a very high public favorability, but did it ever change because of the drama within her family members? Her son Charles, having an affair against his wife, and then divorcing, Diana's passing. Prince Harry's drama, and etc. Has public favorability wavered as a result to all of the drama in the family?
Well, I think people felt sorry for her mainly because of the trials that she had in her own family. But the way she handled them, I think people respected it. She tried to handle them privately and with great wisdom and prudence, and I think people respected that and loved her for it. So I don't think that made her lose much popularity. I think certain things she perhaps felt she could have handled better. When Princess Diana died, she kind of misread the mood of the people then, But on the whole, I think she knew exactly how to handle the monarchy, and because she recognized that spiritual element to it, I think she saw the importance of being certainly somewhat separate from the nation, and to keep that mystique of the monarchy, so that, as I put in my article, it allows that spiritual element to come to the fore, and that perhaps people will look more to God than to her, to see that spiritual element beyond herself. And I think that's why her popularity remains so strong. But ultimately, it was her sense of duty and dedication which people admired the most, which, as I said before, derived very much from her faith.
One of the things that I find very curious, as an outsider looking in, as a Catholic, as somebody, my historical roots, my family's ancestry goes back to Scotland and then further back to Ireland, and so I've studied a lot of English history, Scottish history, etc. But of course, the line of James ended. We all have heard the Bonnie Prince Charlie story, but the Hanovers came, which is where the House of Windsor comes from. So I find it interesting as Catholics, from the outside looking in, as Catholics, when you think of the monarchy, it seems to me that you think very affectionately, very tenderly, very lovingly towards the monarchy. Is there any sense of this history, the sort of the lost of the line of the Stuarts versus this current House of the Windsors?
Well, there is, and I think I can't speak for all the faithful, of course, but I think a lot of faithful in England, Catholic faithful, that is, I think there's a sense that, or a regret really, that the Catholic monarchy is not Catholic, and that there is this. She is the supreme, or she was the supreme head of the Church of England, which, you know, broke away from Rome, of course, and so I think that is a problem with the monarchy, and it's hard to say, but I think a lot of the problems within the royal family and so forth, I think perhaps derive from a certain consequence of that spiritual breaking away, and so it certainly is not perfect, and it does have many flaws, and I think one of the main ones is that it's no longer Catholic. Because it is, really, as I said earlier, very much a Catholic institution. The coronation is the most Catholic state ceremony there is in Britain still. It's all about anointing and all of that, and that very much comes from the faith, of course. So yes, it is regrettable, and I think that's something which will always be there. Well, hopefully not always be there, but certainly now. Okay.
You know, here in America, we have, as Catholics, we've often pointed out, like, for instance, our current president, Joe Biden, who is a purported Catholic, but an ardent and, just an ardent supporter of abortion and same-sex unions, and we fault him for that because there is a clear disconnect. John Kerry, who was a Secretary of State, he also said, well, I can't oppose it publicly, even though I privately oppose it. It seems like Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II kind of fell in the same, although she was not Catholic, but a Christian nonetheless. She seems to fall in the same category. As Queen, she seemed to endorse abortion and same-sex unions, which you touch upon in your article today. Can you speak to that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, I think this derives from her Anglicanism, and perhaps other forces too, that she didn't stand up against the Abortion Act, which came in the 1960s during her reign, and also same-sex marriage as well, and other such legislation which was clearly against natural law. And it's hard to say why. I think it's really because she placed the democratic will of the people above natural law, and I think she did that because she felt she had a duty to do that. The duty was to serve the people in whatever way they wanted the country to go democratically, and so I think that took precedence for her. And I think, if she were a Catholic monarch, perhaps that would have been different. I think that the King of Luxembourg, I believe, did take a stand against abortion. He did withhold his royal assent from legislation. And so it is possible. It's very rare, of course. I think the last time it was done in Britain by a monarch was 1708. So I think she felt she couldn't do it. But as I say, I think, were she Catholic, I wonder whether she would have taken a more of a stand and refused to censor such statistics.
We have just a couple of minutes left within our conversation with Edward Pentin from the National Catholic Register. Can I switch to His Majesty King Charles III? What is your anticipation under his reign? I want to sneak this in real quick, but he's got very close ties to the World Health Organization, very climate agenda focused, and Great Reset language has been something he's espoused quite a bit. But also, will his wife be the Queen, or will she have a different title? What say you, Edward Pentin?
She's called the Queen Consort, so she's not fully the Queen, I believe. I don't know. I haven't looked exactly into that. But the Queen gave her that title only last year, I think, in preparation for this. But yes, I agree with you, Joe. I think Prince Charles won't be the same. I think he'll be more outspoken on political issues, which I think could bring the monarchy into disrepute. And I think he's spoken out, been quite outspoken in the past. I think he might well be the same as king. He does have a faith. I think he leans quite towards the Orthodox, I believe, rather like his father, the Orthodox Church, that is. But he is also quite open to all faiths. I think he said many years ago he wanted to be defender of faith rather than defender of faith, which is the old title of Queen, of the sovereign in the United Kingdom. So we'll just have to see. But I think it'll be a very different monarchy going forward.
Wow. I wish we had a lot more time. I'd love to have you back when we have more time so we can talk about this. But Edward Pentin from the National Catholic Register, thank you so much for your time today. Check out the article at ncregister.com, A Tribute to My Queen by Edward Pentin. God bless you. Thank you for your time today.